Hello and welcome to Talking Time, the podcast where we talk to the amazing people behind Britain's watches. I'm Katya, I work for the Alliance, and here with me we've got Ricky from Scottish Watches.
This is the second episode we're recording, so things are still a little bit new and we're just trying things out to see if everything's going to be okay, but as far as I can tell, everybody's sounding good.
And today we've got our special guests from Cambridge, Matt Hurd and Karim Faisali from Beaucroft Watches. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi, very well. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, very well, thank you.
First of all, tell us how it all started with the watch company. Was there a moment when you thought that's it, we're setting up a watch company?
There were, I guess we have probably our own stories that brought us together to sort of create Beaucroft. Mine, I had sort of two very clear touch points that sort of led me on the watch journey, I guess. One was way back when I was a baby, 1979, taking it all the way back. My father's Persian, my mother's Northern Irish. So we were as a family in Iran, and the Iranian Revolution happened. So my dad was from a very prominent Persian family, and overnight they were exiled, so they had to grab one bag and leave the country. And in that mad rush, my dad sort of, in his bag, picked a watch that he chose with the mindset of giving it to me when I sort of grew up. So later on, he actually did that. So I had that kind of story surrounded me, I guess, as watches played that part very, very early on.
Which watch was it?
It was an Eternamatic, a 14-karat gold bracelet, gold watch.
Gold everything.
Gold everything, exactly that. So really not my taste, but I was very appreciative when he gave it to me.
Have you still got it, Karim?
I've still got it. Yeah, I've still got it. I don't really wear it. As I was saying, I've never found an occasion where I can sort of put on this very opulent, sort of solid gold watch, but it's there and it will be passed down to my son. And it probably led to that sort of second point where, kind of going full circle, I guess. In 2017, my son was born, and I was, at the time I was working, co-founded a fintech startup in London. And I was sort of finding time where I was sort of traveling to London, and I was building this business that I had no passion for in reality. It was sort of more chasing money than it was anything else. And that's not really what I'm about as a whole. So I just sort of felt I wanted to spend more time with him, and I wanted to build a company that I was really passionate and that I could sort of pass down to him, that he would be proud of in some way. And watches were the natural choice. So taking those two sort of points in my life and then speaking to Matt, and he had his own journey, and we just decided that we wanted to do it. The time was right, and Beaucroft came about.
What a story. And how did you two meet?
So we actually met through our wives. So our wives worked together in HR, in people team, and so we'd meet socially at parties and things. And it wasn't actually till I was buying a watch for my brother that I got talking to Karim about watches and realised he had this expert knowledge and this amazing history of watches. And from there, we just kind of would geek out every time we'd meet up. Everyone around us kind of fizzled away, I guess, because we were always talking about the nuances of watches. That watch as well that I actually Karim helped me find, or bought from Karim, set me on the path. Was one of the things that set me on the path with the watch world. So I'd studied as a product designer. I was always fascinated by the products that we have in our lives that carry more meaning than the sum of their parts. And I'd kind of bought my first watch when I was about 16. And I got some money from my grandma. And I thought, I'm going to buy a watch that, I'll always remember her by. I'll always have, and it will be sort of synonymous with her and how I feel about her. And I made the most awful choice. I bought this very of-the-moment fashion piece. I had a few £100, and that seemed like the only thing I could kind of get. A year later, I was really ashamed of it. It it completely gone out of style. It was, battery was flat, and I felt kind of disappointed that that's what I'd chosen.
What watch was it?
It was very large. The company probably should stick to making jeans rather than watches. For me as a designer, I'd always been interested in the stories between people and the things that they own and the reasons why they buy them. And I think that had sown a seed in me that watches can be extremely powerful, and they can create amazing moments and stories between people, or they can be completely wrong. And it wasn't until I was buying a watch for my brother, and just to give a bit of background, my brother is on the autistic spectrum. So he's not really very material. He doesn't have lots of physical things that he cares about. It doesn't bother him. And style fashion is not his thing. But when I gifted him this watch for his 16th birthday, suddenly this was the thing that kind of meant more to him than anything else. This was the product that if there was a special occasion, he would get this out, he would polish it, he'd put on his best shirt, he'd wear this watch, and that would be a moment for him. And I'd never kind of seen that in him before. And I, at the time, was designing kettles, beauty devices, coffee machines, lots of things that, the market needs and you're trying to improve and add technology into. But I'd never seen anything quite as powerful as the story that we can have with a great watch, and the story between people. And that really probably was the moment for me. You asked, Katya, was there a moment? That was when I think I felt I've got to do something in watches. Like there's nothing like this.
It was a really special moment.
From my story, it was all about legacy. It was all about having something that that I was completely proud of, that I could stand over. There's something that could be passed on to generations, and just having that object that really means something. Whether you wear it or you don't wear it, it has a place. It has a place in your everyday, and it kind of feeds into that. So when we set about designing, for example, then it was always about doing the best product that we could, best materials. Which sounds really simple, but it was something that had that quality behind it. It wasn't a fashion watch. It wasn't a fad. There was something very traditional about it. So that's kind of where I was standing. And I think it was very similar for yourself, Matt.
I've found over the last few years, and I'm relatively new to watches, 2017 is when I first bought a watch and had no clue whatsoever. But since then, the people I've spoken to, and thankfully now I'm within the industry, the stories that I hear on an almost daily basis from people, and it doesn't matter if they're just starting out or they've been running a company for 30, 40 years, the stories are what brings it all together. And it's as if the watch is just a time capsule. There we go, a time capsule that contains the legacy, the dreams, the hopes, the aspirations of future generations, and the tales of the past, all encapsulated in a small metal container.
And then kind of following on from certainly having a watch passed down to me from my father. My mother actually gave me a watch at the same time. It was one that she'd sort of got. And as I became collecting, she never thought to give it to me. But because I'd been collecting and had such an interest in it over the years, she wanted to pass it on because it came from the sort of same time. Very, very different watch. It was actually a hand-wound, very small Omega DeVille, sort of blue dial. And very simple, but probably more in line with, I wear that watch. I wear it more often than I did any other watch. Similar story, but probably more my style. And I've probably used that more as a foundation, a benchmark for our design in terms of where I could see it going. It sort of fed in. So I think just having the two pieces, even though the stories were the same, having the two pieces just meant so much difference in terms of what they provided for me. One I could wear every day. One was very sort of special. I kept it in a certain box and everything else. But they're very powerful. We found that, and we're seeing that now, kind of down the road with our customers as well, and we enjoy that side of things, and that sort of really led to everything that we've done, I guess.
Everyone's got a story to tell through a watch, and there are so many people that have either been in Karim's situation, my situation as a 16-year-old, trying to buy something with a bit of meaning and not really knowing where to go or where to start, or someone who's built a connection and wants to, mark that connection with something special, like with my brother. And I think it's kind of the seed that sat there. I think let's create a better situation for people when they're in that situation. Let's help them find something that lives up to those stories that they have or that they're living. And let's create an experience around it that, actually creates a moment in time as well when they're actually choosing the watch. And that has stayed very core to whenever we're looking at what we do next or what to make or who to partner with. We're always thinking about those people and their stories.
Yeah, well, design as well. What inspired design of the series of watches that you've got on at the moment?
I guess linking back to that story that we were saying, what was the watch that I should have bought when I was 16 and wanted something that was going to last and, be memorable. And I think that's really, a lot of that's where our first watch, the Senate, has come from. It's something that's, it's smart, it's classic, it's got modern touches that give it a bit of vibrancy, a bit of energy, whether that's color, styling, design. It's something that you notice, but it's not obtrusive. And it's something that you can imagine in 10, 20 years is going to look as classic as it does the day you get it. And it's something that is accessible, is, for a lot of people, maybe their first mechanical watch, their first smarter watch. So we wanted it to be quite dressy, something that you put on for that special occasion. You put on for those moments where you want to look your best. So that's what kind of really led to that style. And Karim and I, when we were designing it, we'd always be on the move. So we love walking. We're very lucky to live in Cambridge, so we have wonderful places to walk around. Mm-hmm. As you know, Katja, I know you're from Bury St Edmunds.
Yes,
you've got this history.
Local, yeah.
It's impossible not to be inspired by what you see. Cambridge is this melting pot of the old and new. You've got the old architecture and history and stories with modern people, modern technologies, aspirations. So we'd take elements of what we saw and kind of put a modern twist on it and bring that into the watch. So our logo, which is the sort of 4 teardrops together, for instance, and features heavily in our design, is taken from the surround of the King's College clock in Cambridge. And you see that sort of beautiful and elegant shape on lots of the architecture in and around Cambridge.
Yeah, it sounds, Matt, that you've pretty much designed the watch that you should have initially bought then back at 16.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. It really, you don't know how embarrassed I was by it a few years later. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the watch, but it wasn't the right fit between the stories.
Your connection with Cambridge, and you're obviously based there, and your designs are very much based on Cambridge, like you said, but also you had some very exciting news last year when you announced your partnership with the Cambridge University. So tell us a bit more about
before
that.
we get to that, I want to bring something up, because you talked about Cambridge and everything that surrounds you influences what you do. And there is this old and new. And when I think of Cambridge, or when maybe listeners across the world, because this podcast will go international, they've heard of Cambridge and Oxford. They're the standouts in the UK when it comes to further education. It's the Yale and the Harvard. But for me, being a bit of a tech geek, I remember Clive Sinclair, ARM, Acorn computers, the processor that's in most phones, tablets, everything across the world. That was kind of the brainchilds in your local area as well. So you've got this entrenched history with the universities, mechanical watches, and you've got the boom of the computer era in the UK from the same place. It's amazing.
So it is. I think it's when we named the watch Senate, for example, a lot of people thought it was about the Senate House, which houses the graduation for the university. But actually, we came about that name from there's a passage beside it called Senate House Passage. And we used to walk down there, and you can really feel the vibrancy of Cambridge. And there's a real mix of the university, the town as well, and also the tourists. So we would see this sort of coming together of those 3 elements within the city and the vibrancy that it gave to that. So it's not all just about the university that is very prominent and is steeped in its own history, and we're obviously very proud to now be a part of that in a very small way. But it was, Cambridge has its own indie scene, vibrancy, startup scene. So we'd like to feel as though we've taken from all of those elements and try to encompass that into our design.
Well, the most I've seen of Cambridge was from a documentary that's probably now 15 years old called Micromen. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
No.
It charts the history of computers and how Sir Clive Sinclair and Chris Curry got into loggerheads and the development, how the BBC Micro came to be and all the rest of it, and everything was shot in Cambridge. So it was good for me to be able to see the background of where you guys are actually based.
Sure.
I'm now going to pass it back to the host of the show, Katja, because I interrupted and I promise I won't do that again or I'll get scolded at.
No, it's fine. Well, I was going to ask about your links to Cambridge University. You've announced your partnership last year, so can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked here a lot about stories and moments for people. One of the biggest ones, especially in Cambridge, is that graduation, that achievement of excellence. That there's years of hard work you've put into something, and it all culminates in the moment of graduation. It's an extremely emotional time for a lot of people, and we'd always seen that being in amongst Cambridge, and when thinking about, something to commemorate that and to celebrate that and tell that story, again, a watch, and especially a mechanical watch, is such a perfect pairing. And so we'd been itching to get involved with the university for a while, and it was just finding kind of that way in. And what was lovely about it was that became a very natural partnership. It's as Ricky was saying, the history in engineering and an excellence, and having something to mark that for people has made it a fantastic match. And what's so interesting is that you start working with different colleges, different clubs, and they're all so different. Everything's different. We feel like we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible with the university. And I mean, the history is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you feel like you just get a very small but exciting taste of it. And we've been running the graduations, being involved there. Finding the right watch for people on that day has been very exciting. We unfortunately don't get to actually see the ceremony because it's behind closed doors.
Yeah.
It's completely hidden. You only hear rumours about what actually happens.
Gosh.
But it's one of the oldest traditions. So we see people when they come out the doors and sort of help a lot of them find that watch. But that's been really exciting. It's so exciting to be part of something that's so prominent to Cambridge. And when we talk about stories, Cambridge is one of those places where it captures a big part of a lot of people's lives, and it might be quite a fleeting time. If you're there for just 4 years studying a course, that is a very intense, very short, sharp experience, and you're walking the paths that some of the most incredible innovators have walked. Super exciting to be involved in that.
Yeah.
And speaking of the watches themselves, you guys actually sent me up one to have a look at because I had no experience. And I always go into things with a completely blank mind, clean slate. I want to see the thing in front of me because everybody can hype and spin and market all the way through. But until you get the product, you just don't know. And I would love to say that I'm wearing it on the wrist today, but I'm not, because my sister pinched it because she thought it was so damn good. She came across and
love that.
Great.
Generally not got a big interest in watches, although, as happens with me and my family and my friends and people close to me, slowly but surely the bug starts to infect everybody. It's almost like coronavirus a couple of years ago. So the one you sent across is now away, but when I had it here, the fit and the finish was amazing. The way that the side of the case was so well machined and polished. There was a satin finish, a polished edge. Even flipping it over, looking at the case back, you could see through into the movement, the decoration, even the customized rotor. And this is a fully automatic, beautiful watch with a lovely dial that's colour matched to the strap. It comes in a presentation that is equally as good for yourself as it is a gift or a celebration for somebody, perhaps graduating, as you say. And then the price point, your watches come in at under £400, including VAT. It's kind of exceptional.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I was quite lucky to try a few of your watches at Red Bar Cambridge a month ago, and they just really stand out. Absolutely stunning watches, and rightly Ricky says.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We're not going to use that cliche of affordable luxury, but it kind of does apply here a little bit. So how did, from this being your first, well, it's almost your first single, it's your first song, to almost hit the #1 chart position instantaneously, how did you manage that? Because we've seen a lot of brands, not just here in the UK, but across the globe, that their first watch is pretty good, but there's a couple of rough edges, and they have to maybe work on that a little bit. Their second one's pretty decent, and then they get into their stride by their third. But you've hit a home run day one. How did you manage it?
It's funny you say that because we probably don't see it as the finished product. We're quite critical. We're always challenging ourselves. So I think, but we're probably our worst critics because both of us want trying to hit that perfection, which would maybe is unachievable. But we're very proud in terms of what we put out. We set out, and it took a while. It took a long time. We didn't rush it.
It didn't look good at first.
It didn't.
Definitely. There are a lot to say that. It looked pretty foul. I'd say.
Yeah.
There's many.
I don't know.
I think it's also a thing of you when we started this. Yeah, very much two friends that we'd meet up at each other's houses and we'd maybe open a bottle of wine, and our partners would chat, and Karim and I would sit there and we'd draw and we'd sketch. Or later down the line, we'd get the CAD out and we'd just tweak and we'd just test, and we'd print things out, and we'd 3D print caseworks on our little 3D printer. And I don't think we've ever added up the hours on that.
No.
And we're probably extremely boring, to be in with the room. But I think there was something so lovely about just having that expansive time just to play.
Yeah.
When we were doing that, there was no timeline. There was no, we will launch on this date, or we will push the button on this. It felt very free. And hopefully that's one of the things that's kind of paid off now with the design, is just going through that.
Yeah.
Many, and we weren't afraid to show people. We were at the time, we'd never believed we'd actually have a watch business. So we were very happy to kind of share images and talk to people. Again, even when we had our first prototypes, our first samples, and this was, just at the early stages of lockdown, when we, brought everything together and we thought we were going to be on the road, going to lots of events, going to lots of shows. Suddenly we knew all we could do really was sit in front of one person at a time when you were allowed to do that. So we'd go on these quite bizarre sort of almost like a watch blind date, where you've been chatting to someone online. They've shown an interest in what you're doing. Obviously, you've got very little followers and engagement at that stage, and you're meeting them in a pub when they opened up, or a cafe, or just on a walk around Cambridge. And actually, what happens is you have this really intimate kind of half an hour with someone where you just share everything, and learn some stories about what people are looking for. So I think we're very fortunate almost to have everything stripped away and just have the time to build and to refine and to shape things with real people that we found were sharing and had the same issue as us.
Yeah, and also we had an emotional tie to this watch, from our backstories. It meant a lot. We wanted to get it right. So that sort of pushed us or drove us forward to challenge ourselves, each other, in order to produce something that we would be completely 100% proud of. And we weren't prepared to compromise on that.
So you should definitely be proud of it.
And did you fight over anything?
Thank you.
What were the disagreements? We like the juicy gossip.
Maybe colour a little bit. We've got,
I always need restraints. So Matt pulls me down. I want to go wild at all times. So and I was maybe, colour and probably like times.
What colours did you want?
I don't know if they're outlandish, but I was always sort of pushing for
rainbow.
Black
on black. Yeah, rainbow. Yeah, black on black. So black on black case, black dial,
black hands,
black hands. I just wanted this dramatic kind of like
can't see anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't need to. I'll carry a head torch with me. It's absolutely fine. So that kind of thing. I always wanted the dramatic, the kind of the moment, and Matt's much more sensible in terms of what's practical.
You didn't get your way. I've not seen a black one in your range yet.
I think we made a mistake though. We did make one,
and I still wear it.
And Karim wears it, and he loves to wear it on a photo shoot or something, where then we have to
explain why we don't have that range.
Yeah, I think that's it really. I think at the same time, I think it's I'm obsessed with this stuff. I'll literally go round and round and round and round on a design, because I guess in my previous life as a product designer, you were always working for someone else. You always had a client who was paying the bills and had a certain launch schedule that you were working to. When it's your own creation, I just love the process. So I'd quite happily just go around. Karim says, is this it? This is the one, right? That's it. That's what we're sending to the manufacturer. And I was like, it's almost there. And then another month would go by and Karim would come around and I'm back on the 3D printer.
Well, I've got some questions about your 3D printing there. You're not just guys with a pencil and a pad or a mouse and some CAD software. You mentioned they're prototyping with 3D. Does that mean you designed the case yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this isn't
absolutely.
Just you've gone through a catalogue from a far-flung place and ticked the box somewhere?
Nothing at all.
No, there isn't. Every single element.
Every element
has been designed by us.
In a watch that's £375?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is insane.
We're crazy.
That is absolutely insane. So the iterations, the design process for all these parts, with no prior experience, where did you start?
So I guess I was very lucky in my background, and you were talking about technology before and to the Cambridge technology bubble. that was my world. I worked at a, science and technology engineering consultancy. So we were working on like cutting edge technology in the surgical space, in consumer, in food and beverage, in industrial. And we had all the toys. So we had CNC milling machines. We had access to some of the best prototype model makers, in the area. We had the very best, software and tools, and 3D printing and making one-offs and, CNCing a casework was just what we did. You'd be making rigs and fixtures and trying technology really quickly all the time. So I think looking back, that was very fortunate that you want to make something new, you go for it. You got all the tools, you got all the technology, you've got the contacts in the area. So it was always kind of, I just assumed that everyone had a little 3D printer when they were making any product.
So it was second nature almost.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have those sort of 12 years diligently learning kind of how to develop products in that way. In fact, one of the things that I guess probably allowed me to get more into this was, it's like with any sort of more corporate job, the higher up you go, the less and less you do the design, the more you're kind of managing the budgets, the client, the timeline. And so I was itching to do some design. So I'd sort of after hours be, back on the CNC machine or the 3D printer, keeping my hand in and keeping that fresh.
What I'm starting to get a picture of here is that this isn't a new company, Katya. This is a company that's 12 years old, but it's only just now released its first watch.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of design, it was maybe 3 years before we even thought about launching, certainly. And obviously our experience prior to that. But yeah, we definitely didn't rush, however much we wanted to. We definitely didn't rush. We took our time. We went through that process and enjoyed that process all the way along.
I think we were, definitely. I think we were also inspired by a few very honest British brands at the time. Brands. I remember we just got back from Basel World, and we'd been at we'd seen Braemont there, and we sort of had a very, very, very brief chat with the guys, and I just remember them saying, it took 7 years to get to our first watch, or something like that, wasn't it? It was like, it took years. And I think we came home and we were like, oh, that's cool. So we've only worked on this for
we're ahead of the
curve. But I think it just gave you that confidence that, you don't need to, why rush?
Why rush?
It's only us two. And, we haven't got this new technology that someone else is going to, catch up with if we don't launch immediately. If, we've got a story and we've got a vision for a design, and kind of the longer it goes on, the better, which was great.
So you've mentioned you're still working on improving of the designs, and what's next? Something exciting coming next year?
Lots coming. I think we were telling about this earlier with the Senate design. We had in our heads that was, it's a dress watch with a bit of vibrancy. It's a dress watch with some interesting colours that you don't usually see, and some modern touches to the design. What we've learned from our customers is a dress watch, but people want to wear it every day. They want to wear it all the time.
Yeah.
They want it to be more of that everyday piece. And I think one of the things that's been really wonderful, and it was great to hear, Ricky, that you said your sister has picked up the Cambridge Blue, is I think we sell sort of 60% men, 40% women at the moment. And for a lot of our female customers, it's a bit of a statement watch. No, it's something they wouldn't have naturally picked. I remember a lot of people saying, is that going to be too big? Is that too bold? But when people have actually sat down with us and tried it on and worn it for a bit, they've gone, actually, I love this. This is a statement. This is something different. This isn't overtly feminine. This is something that is taken seriously and stands out. And there's been learnings like that as made us go, okay, what is next? And I think we want to make the best everyday watch we can. We want to make that watch that you just want to.
I'm showing a picture on the screen of my sister sending a photo of her at work wearing the watch.
Wonderful.
She can't take it off.
There you go. Well, that is exactly what we love, and I think so. It's now time. I think we've got that kind of watch that sits between a dress and an everyday. Yeah. We want to now make something that you just don't want to take off. It's the watch that is your go-to day to day. What does that mean? It means it's a little bit smaller. So we've gone for a 37mm. We are playing around with that case, as you were describing, Ricky. We love the idea of a tapered case, so that it sits smaller on the wrist and then presents itself off the wrist. So we've kept that, but we're taking some really lovely inspiration from some of the bridges around Cambridge. And actually the story of how we've been designing this watch is quite unusual. So we partnered with a punting company.
That means a very different thing in Scotland, I'll have you know.
Yes, let me quickly explain.
I've tried it. I like it.
It's a bit like
not the one in Scotland, the one in Cambridge.
No,
I've tried.
A lot of people think of sort of Venice and sort of like a gondola type boat. It's effectively like a Cambridge equivalent. So it's a very narrow, long wooden boat with a chauffeur on the back who has a long wooden pole and is sort of guiding you down the river on that boat.
If you're brave, you do it yourself, which we've done.
If you're brave, and maybe sometimes.
But you have to be very brave.
But we partnered with them because we wanted to take people out on the river. We were finding that when people came to Cambridge to see our watches, they wanted to do something in the day and wanted to get a taste of Cambridge. So we thought, well, what better way than have a boat, that we could take out and take people out, especially if it was a special occasion and someone was, had a big birthday they wanted to celebrate and wanted this watch to be the present. Why not present it on the river?
And graduations, etc.
And what we realized was being on the river is there's something about being on water and moving that just helps with creativity and helps with flow. And we found that whenever we'd go out on the boat, we'd just start thinking about new designs, thinking about inspirations for it. So what we thought might be quite fun is actually to design our second watch on the boat.
On the boat.
So we actually took sketch pads out and we, sat and we shaped it while we were on the river. And obviously what's happened is some of the architectural designs have kind of rubbed off into that design. So the casework has this beautiful curve to it that matches one of the bridges in Cambridge. And it's a watch for kind of enjoying being in your element, being in your flow. It's there, it's your companion. It sits very comfortably and neatly on the wrist. But also as night turns to dark, it comes alive in a different way. So we've been playing with loom and creating something that looks very different as night sets in. So it's something that you don't need to take off. A lot of people were giving us feedback on the Senate that they just wish it sort of glowed in the dark. And we said, well, it's a dress watch. You don't typically see loom on a dress watch because you're using polished metals and that sort of thing. But what people were telling us is no, but we want to wear this watch all the time. And so that's the new one. Too excited about.
Yeah. So we it's kind of on its ways really. So we're aiming to launch that kind of Q3 this year.
Wow, how exciting. You've definitely got very creative ways about designing your watches and selling them to your customers. Because I know there's another place where, apart from the boat, where you can see Beaucroft watches, try them on while having a bit of fun as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we'd love to tell you a bit about that and how that kind of started. Kind of ties again a little bit back to the slight intimidation of trying to buy your first nice watch. The slight intimidation of some of the shops, with the guarded doors, or, some of the high street stores that you go into, which are you're very aware that you're standing in a shopping centre, with your shopping at your feet, standing over a counter. It's all very busy. You feel a bit rushed. It's not exactly the moment and experience you were looking for to sort of celebrate, but whatever it was that you were buying the watch for. Say if you're buying something for your partner, how can you soak that up in a different way? And we're fortunate to have friends that run the Cambridge distillery. So it's a gin distillery where all the gin is made in Cambridge, and they use some amazingly innovative techniques to create very different gins with some amazing botanicals that you couldn't normally make gin with, such as sort of truffle gin, which is particularly intense and exciting. But they, as well as having a distillery in Cambridge, they have the Gin Lab. And the Gin Lab is sort of a creative, interactive space where you get to come and learn about how gin is made, but also explore your tastes, drink a lot of gin, and have an excellent time. Buy a lot of
watches after that.
Buy a lot of watches, yeah, exactly. That is our business model.
Exactly. Four gins, barriers.
And that's it.
It's the same.
But when it was in the pandemic and we were looking at somewhere to launch as things started to open up, we sat down with the Gin Lab and said, look, we love what you do for gin. Is there something like that we could do for watches? Yeah. Can we take a grade 2 listed building in the heart of town down a cobbled street and have somewhere where we can invite people in, pour them a gin and tonic from some of the world's best gin, and just create an experience for them as they pick their perfect watch. And so we not only sell our watches in the lab, but we hold private fittings and viewing sets. So someone can come and spend 45 minutes exploring a full range of watches and straps. And we quite often buy some weird and wonderful straps just for that fitting.
Yeah.
So that people can really just unwind, enjoy a few gins while they, celebrate with that person they're buying it for. Or, it's been perfect for big birthdays, graduations. It was amazing for us to meet some of our early customers. Karim and I would run those firsthand when we started. So we'd sit down for an hour and you just hear some incredible stories. Couples that had lived in Cambridge years ago and then fallen back in love themselves and with the place. And it there's a magical place for that sort of storytelling. And also it's very fun.
Definitely. And those people that we sort of met in the first instance, early kind of earlier on, still talk to us. We'll still interact with them. They're sort of following our journey and what we're doing. So it's been great. And they're the best people to give us the feedback as well when we're sort of thinking about what we're going to do next.
Gosh, I can't wait to visit. I've not been to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry you haven't been in yet.
Gin and
Are
watch
you a
shop
fan of...
yet? No.
Did you not just say that you stay 5 minutes away?
About 35 minutes, yeah.
Well, you should,
definitely.
for sure. You definitely should.
I have to get a taxi on the way back and a big case for watches.
Exactly, of course.
Let's talk a little bit about the Alliance, because that's the whole reason that we're here today. You guys are members, and the people listening are hopefully members. If not, they will be soon. Katja, do you want to explain a little bit about the Alliance for the uninitiated?
So we launched on lockdown. Very good timing. Like a lot of watch companies, startups actually, have done very, very well. So our chairman is Roger Smith, and we've got Mike France of Christopher Waters, co-founder of the Alliance. And our main goal is to promote British watch and clock brands around the world. First year, we've been working hard on getting everyone on board. And now we've got 78 trade members, which is absolutely brilliant. This year, we're focusing on quite big initiatives for careers. We're going to look at the live event. We've also got a really big club membership database now. Thanks very much for your support, everyone. Always glad to have new members joining us.
Well, the best thing about joining the Alliance is you get a signed bit of paper from Roger Smith.
You do. We this year, with the launch of our first collaboration watch between Fizz and Christopher Ward, we had such an influx of club members that I have actually been chasing after Roger Smith and Mike France to sign the certificates for club members. And that's been my top priority, top on my list. So I could get the membership back sent out soon.
Well, that's good that there's a waiting list now for certificates with Roger Smith and Mike France's names on them. But that is one of the benefits. The Alliance isn't just a trade body for creators, watchmakers and entrepreneurs within the UK. It's for members. And you don't have to be within the UK to be a member. You can join. I believe there's members from across the world who are all waiting for those certificates winging their way across the ocean.
They are. We've got members in all sorts of countries, Europe, Middle East, everywhere. Yeah, from all over the world.
Right, okay, back to you guys. You're the stars of this show. So any funny anecdotes that you can share with us about the process of coming up with watch designs, bringing them to fruition, getting them produced, getting weird and wonderful prototypes created?
Yeah, we've gone through a hefty process in terms of design. We've managed to keep a lot of them to look back and think how crazy we were. Especially at the time when we were like, yeah, we've done it. This is it. We're ready. And then you realise we weren't at all.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe what we're doing now is quite key with this, actually. So we're always trying to find new partnerships and try and find something different. But the core being, creativity and a key experience for someone. And our latest partner is the Cambridge Club Music Festival. So this is a music festival run by two guys, Will and Chris. Young, dynamic, creative, doing something different for Cambridge and creating this sort of very kind of, it's almost got 80s inspired feel-good festival and getting some big names. So they had Diana Ross as their headliner last year and Lionel Richie this year. We've become the sort of watch partner to the event and running sort of interactive and engaging things at the festival and sort of marking that moment certainly for myself, and I think for you, Karim, when summer comes around, festivals, music, that's the time that I certainly remember. So being a part of that is key. But back to your question, Ricky, we've taken on the task of designing one-off pieces for some of the lineup.
Oh,
and so we are throwing ourselves into the world of designing for some exceptionally creative, wonderfully diverse people.
Yes.
And trying to design something unique very, very quickly for each of those. And some of the watches that have come out of the early stages of that have been
may never see the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's good fun.
When is the festival happening?
So the festival is the first week in June, and that's when we'll also be presenting these pieces to the artists. So what we've been doing
keep
is
an eye on their wrists. That's what
yeah,
we'll be looking
absolutely.
at.
So we've been getting input from them, various levels of input, to really trying to get under the skin of what they're about, and what the importance of time is to them, and that kind of summer feel and festival vibe. And now we're kind of behind the scenes trying to turn those into watches quite quickly. And a lot of the techniques we're looking at using allows us to make things locally, which is fantastic. So we're looking at how can we create dials in different ways very quickly. So
you're creating a unique watch for quite a few of these famous people.
Yes,
exactly
just
that.
Specifically for them.
So there's 8,
potentially 10 in total.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Exciting.
It's been a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. But it's what we love to do, and it's super exciting. And to take it back to that design stage, and as Matt was saying, sort of trying to take the information from these very diverse sort of personalities. And we tried to scale it back by asking them almost 3 questions, just so that we could get a feel and the vibe and everything that we needed to in order to go back to our design process. Has been a challenge.
What were those questions?
Was there a moment in time that sort of meant something? Was there a colour? Was there a symbol? Was there a vibe that you sort of felt? It's based more about kind of the feel, the time of year,
it's a
place.
It's a very peak of summer festival. So it's kind of like, describe your peak summer moment.
Yeah.
What is that? Who are you with? Who's there? Where are you? What time of day is it? And it's quite what we liked about it is quite a personal question. You get some really interesting stories about, what does summer mean for different people? When we were working with the guys at the festival, it meant very different things for them. For some of them, it meant a tremendous amount of hard work because everything happens in the summer. And the moment for them was when the light goes down and, the DJ comes on and they can suddenly let loose and enjoy themselves. So it's those sorts of stories that we're trying to put into a watch.
Yeah.
Which is very fun, quite challenging.
It is.
Well, people should definitely be following your Instagram page so that when the details and the pictures of these new releases come out, they are the first to see them, because I don't know what you guys have got up your sleeve, because you've definitely not shared it with us yet. This was all news to us, but looking forward to seeing that. Have you guys got any advice for people that are maybe thinking of making that jump? Maybe they're caught in the corporate world, they hate the job, they're looking forward to 5 p.m. to clock off, and they have got the dreams and the aspirations of starting their own business and are looking to get into watches because, as we keep saying and we've heard today, it's something that you can attach thoughts, feelings, stories and legacy to. And you guys have been through the whole rigmarole, starting to designing your first watch, been massively successful, releasing it. What advice could you give to people?
I think for me it's be open, curious, and share stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy when you start any new venture to kind of close the doors and think, I have to do everything secretly and I can't share anything because of, IP or design rights or that sort of thing. And you can go round and round and round in that loop. And I think most of the best lessons we've learned was through interacting with people. It's one of the things that's been wonderful about the Alliance is it's one of the most welcoming crowds of people, and yourself, Ricky, such wonderfully welcoming people. These are people that in many other industries you'd say they're your competitors. That's not the field here. You are building something together, and that is the re-emergence of British watchmaking and that history, that design, creativity, and all the stories that go with it. So I think the only advice I would give is just be curious and talk to people. Don't be afraid to put yourselves out there and ask people for support, advice. The partnerships we've had whether it's with the gin lab, the university, it's all been through people trying to do something different together. I'd also say don't necessarily give up the day job too quickly. I'm so glad for myself that I didn't give it up before I'd had the ability to learn, through designing many different products, through this being a passion project on the side for years, and really understanding with Karim is this the thing that we're ready to kind of dive into? I think sometimes you can definitely jump a little bit early, and then suddenly everything has to be about making money because you've given up your paid job to do it. I think we did it at a time when we'd got that buzz and we had to do it. Like, the way to deliver what we want to deliver means we need to jump. Yeah. And what an exciting time to do that, and there's certainly moments on there that feel right.
Definitely.
What about for you, Karim?
Yeah, I think for me, on a business side of things, it's just about setting your goals really, really early, just understanding what success is, what you want success to be, not what other people or what you think it should be. Just sort of understanding and sort of working back from there. Like, what is the aim? What is the goal? Is it to generate money? If that's what it is, then you go down a certain path. For us, it's never about chasing money. From the stories that we've told, there was more to it than that, which is why we took our time to get it right. Obviously we're a business and we have to make money, but that wasn't where we set our bar of success. So I think just being very open and honest with yourself to understand what you want to achieve, and then you can work back and you can put the processes and the mechanics in place in order to try and get there. So we've done that. We've been very open. We've been very honest with each other in terms of what we want to achieve. And we've been very, very focused and committed on achieving that and not deviating from that. And we've constantly tried to challenge ourselves along the way in order to achieve that.
If you love watches as well, you've also got to be prepared that you might have to sell a lot of your watches to start the business, which puts you in a very weird sort of conundrum where you're
very nice.
You're selling some of the things you love to hopefully allow you to do something different yourselves.
That is true.
You can buy them back later on.
You can buy them
and
back.
even more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's just on that point. I always collected watches. I've loved watches from a very early age, and I just don't get to wear any of them now because I feel like I'm cheating on Beaucroft if I put on another watch and go out in case somebody stops me and talks to me. So yeah, a lot of watches are sat there not doing too much at the moment.
So you guys mentioned you do all your design in-house by yourself, but in terms of production, are you outsourcing that at the moment, or are you doing it in the UK?
Yeah, so we're delighted to say that we've now moved the production of our watches to the UK. So we're working with a small partner, small outfit that can create watches and work very closely with us and assemble those watches, in Reading in the UK. It was also a contact that we were able to find by working with the Alliance as well, because we're so keen to have that side of things brought to the UK, especially when you're wanting to do things that are a bit different and just want to try some smaller runs.
Yeah.
And not be held to these sort of huge, or not huge, but large minimum assembly quantities. It's so lovely just to get in the car and go and see them and try some different things. So it feels like a step that we really wanted to take. Yeah. Everything, as you're saying, is very much designed here by us too in Cambridge. Now having, the assembly in the UK and even starting to make some one-off dials actually made in Cambridge has been super exciting.
Yeah.
That's brilliant news, and that's what we encourage within the Alliances. We'd really like to bring as much of supply chain back to the UK, and quite a few of our trade members are starting to do exactly what you're doing. We've ourselves made a few introductions as well. It goes back to how collaborative and how supportive the whole sector is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is interesting for me to see because usually I'm in the media-facing side of things. I get to speak to people about the new releases, and it's marketing and hyperbole mainly. But to hear how the Alliance is actually working underneath in the background, connecting people and the link-ups that are happening, because we obviously saw the Christopher Ward and the Fears tie-in, Nicholas and Mike France, they've been friends for long and sundry. So that was inevitable, and it has massively helped the Alliance. But these little strings that are kind of connecting the dots behind the scenes, it's fantastic to see. And it should be a good push for anybody that hasn't joined the Alliance already. If there's a watchmaker, a designer, or whatever, new, old, indifferent, different, it's definitely something to look at, because to join as a trade member, I don't think there's actually a fee, is there?
There is no fee, no.
As we wrap the show up, because time is precious and we've already taken up far too much of yours, where can people find out more? What's your website address or your Instagram page?
Yeah, sure. So our website is beaucroftwatches.com.
And how are we spelling that?
BEAUCROFT watches.com. And yeah, we have an active Instagram. We also, being a two-man team, if you phone the number that is literally listed in Google, it is Karim's number.
Yeah, you just speak to me. We also speak to me.
You know, we are accessible. We always enjoy questions, challenges from customers, special requests. So we try and make ourselves as available as possible.
What's the address of that gin shop, guys?
So the gin lab is number 10 Green Street in Cambridge.
Yeah.
There'll be a queue there on Saturday.
Yeah, we did actually, just following on, we made our own gin.
Our own blend,
which we only sort of bring out when people do come and have a watch fitting or come and see us there. So you actually get to taste some gin that we created.
Beaucroft.
If you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, and Timekeeper's Blend, which is what we call it.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, telling your story. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about you with all your exciting plans.
Oh, it's been great.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And Ricky, thank you very much for your help here.
Yeah, no problem at all. And Katja, if people want to join the Alliance, trade, or as private members who are into watches, how do they do that?
And yeah, you can just go on our website, britishwatchmakers.com. Follow us on Instagram, please. There's a join us button there in the right-hand corner. So you click that, and there's lots of options to join us as trade member or club member, or as if you're a student, you go free.
Well, thanks for tuning in and listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Goodbye.